wore his wolf suit and caused mischief of one kind or another. His mother yelled, "Wild thing!" And Max replied, "I'll eat you up." And he was sent to bed with no supper to eat before bed. These are the words I read to myself most nights before bed when I was about 6 years old. While most of my little girlfriends were falling asleep to the old Disney folktales of Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, my imagination tended to be a bit more adventurous. Try as I might to fall asleep to those Prince Charming-esque tales, my mind just kept wandering to that forest where Max sailed to, where the wild things are. In fact, that very evening, when Max was sent to bed with no supper, a forest grew and grew and grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world all around him. An ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max to sail off into the night and through a day and in and out of weeks for almost over a year to where the wild things are. And when he finally arrived to where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars. They gnashed their terrible teeth. They rolled their terrible eyes. And they showed their terrible claws. That is, until Max said, "Be still," and tamed them all with the magic trick of staring in all of their yellow eyes without even blinking once. And the wild things were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all and made him king of where the wild things are. And now, Max said, let the wild rumpus start. And the wild things roared so loud you could hear them all across the island. Now stop, Max said, and sent all of the wild things to bed with no supper for themselves. And then Max, king of where the wild things are, became lonely. And he only wanted to be somewhere where someone loved him the most. Then, from far across the world, Max could smell the good things to eat. And so he gave up on being king of where the wild things are. And the wild things yelled, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max cried, "No." And the wild things roared their terrible roars, gnashed their terrible teeth, rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. But Max got on his private boat and he waved goodbye and he set sail for almost over a year, in and out of weeks, and through a day, and into the night, into his own bedroom, where he found his supper there waiting for him, and it was still warm. Perhaps it was child stories like this that I related to the most when I was young, because like Max, I was an only child. And I tended to have a lot of time on my hands for my imagination to run wild. A lot like the wild things. I had completely forgotten how much I absolutely loved this story when I was younger, until I was 29 years old, when I found out they had adapted it into a movie in 2009. I recall my mother and I rushed out to watch that movie because we were so excited. It was actually only then that I also learned that book was written in 1963. That's 23 years before I was actually reading it to myself before bed. I think it's fantastic to realize how stories like Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, and all of the other stories that he's written in Where the Sidewalk Ends, can capture the imagination, the minds, and the hearts of children over 5 decades. And as Nico mentioned, this year is the 55th anniversary for my most favorite childhood story. If you have children and you've never read them those stories, I encourage you. They're adventurous and a ton of fun.